Often we who teach in universities hone our books through teaching. And I taught the history of white people at Princeton as I was working on it, 3 times as an undergraduate class and once as a graduate seminar. Students here at the University of South Florida treat the books your professors assign as Princeton students do. You carry them around with you, and you take them home to read over breaks. From the very first undergraduate class, my students would return from break with stories of their families' questions about this popular class. Parents, especially, asked more urgently about my race as the professor than the content of what students were reading and discussing. Early on, it seemed as though the racial identity of the professor determined parental estimation of the class. In the early days, too, I would get similar responses from curious people. They'd say, "What are you working on?" And I'd say, "The history of white people." In the beginning, I could practically make a taxonomy of the responses. The thought that an African-American author would be writing about white people after the long, long history of white people saying whatever they wanted about black people absolutely delighted African-Americans. It also delighted non-black people, particularly on the left, who considered themselves the allies of black people for the same reason. People with European immigration and their family backgrounds would remember stories of categorization, stories of grandparents who considered themselves Jews or Italians or Irish, who thought themselves white, but who would be abused, even beaten up by other white people over religion or geographical origin. A lot of my questioners said they very much looked forward to reading my book. But in those early days of the century, back in the early 21st century, several white people, on hearing my topic, would draw back from me, and they would ask if I were writing as a black person. Meaning, I suppose, was I going to get back at them for all the terrible things white people had done to others? At first, I'd pull myself up and insist, I'm writing as a historian. Then, tiring of that answer, I'd say, what are my options? By about 2005, I was ready to retort that I was writing as a white man. But before I got to use that line, the question stopped coming. It stopped coming to me, at least. Skeptics stopped expecting my work to work as a cudgel and started expressing curiosity as to what I would find.